What happens when a conservative insider turns against his own team and proposes the most radical solution imaginable? The answer might shock you. And it's unfolding right now at one of Florida's most controversial colleges. A stunning betrayal has emerged from within the ranks of New College of Florida's leadership, where Nathan Allen, once a trusted lieutenant in President Richard Corcoran's inner circle, is now spearheading an audacious campaign to completely privatize the institution. This dramatic about-face represents perhaps the most unexpected twist yet in the ongoing saga of Governor Ron DeSantis' ideological transformation of the Sarasota-based liberal arts college. But here's where it gets controversial. Allen isn't just any disgruntled employee. This is a New College alumnus from 1995 who was handpicked to serve as Corcoran's vice president of strategy and special projects during 2023 and 2024, right in the heart of the conservative makeover. His insider knowledge and sudden pivot to privatization has sent shockwaves through both supporters and critics of the DeSantis experiment. According to Allen, his time working from within the administration left him profoundly disillusioned and convinced that the college faces an uncertain future under continued state oversight. The former venture capital professional and educational technology expert has developed a comprehensive multi-million-dollar blueprint designed to completely sever New College's dependence on taxpayer funding within the next 10 years. This institution operates with just one unpredictable benefactor, and that benefactor is Tallahassee. Allen explained during his interview with Suncoast Searchlight. The moment that benefactor loses interest in pouring this level of funding into the college, what viable options does the institution have left? Allen's argument centers on a harsh reality. He believes the massive surge of state funding that enabled the school's conservative transformation has been fundamentally misallocated and cannot be counted on for long-term sustainability. His privatization scheme, if successfully implemented, would necessitate significant tuition increases and would essentially subject the college to its second complete radical overhaul within just 2 years. And this is the part most people miss. Allen has been conducting his campaign largely behind closed doors, engaging in one-on-one conversations with alumni, faculty members, and community stakeholders. Yet despite this quiet approach, his proposal has already attracted support from some surprisingly high-profile figures, who you might not expect to align with such a plan. Among his notable supporters is Nancy Parrish, the former board chair of the John and Mabel Ringling Museum Foundation, who previously fought against DeSantis' attempt to transfer museum control to New College. Also backing the proposal is Ben Brown, who stepped down from his position as Alumni Association chair in March due to growing concerns about the school's management of its substantial $50 million endowment. This unlikely coalition of support highlights a growing sentiment that the college's current direction may be fundamentally unsustainable. Their backing suggests that even individuals who initially opposed or questioned the DeSantis overhaul are now so concerned about the institution's future that they're willing to consider privatization as a viable alternative. Allen frames his argument from a historical perspective that many find compelling. He contends that the school, which originally operated as a private institution, should never have transitioned to public status back in the 1970s. He and his supporters point to alarming trends, including declining standardized test scores, a concerning erosion of academic rigor, and escalating classroom management challenges as clear evidence that Corcoran's reinvention efforts have actually undermined the distinctive qualities that once made New College special. From where I stand, Brown stated bluntly, they didn't just bungle the execution, they engaged in substantial hypocrisy throughout the process. When asked to respond to Allen's privatization proposal, Corcoran's reaction was swift and dismissive. Nathan Allen is a friend who has contributed many brilliant ideas over the years, but this particular one is completely without merit, Corcoran stated in his written response to Suncoast Searchlight. We take pride in our membership in America's top-ranked state university system. Our goal remains offering exceptional traditional and classical educational approaches within a liberal arts framework that serves all students. To understand the full context of this privatization push, it's essential to recognize New College's unique position in Florida's educational landscape. Once celebrated for its unconventional, diverse, and politically progressive student population, this institution served as the state's only public liberal arts honors college before becoming a central battleground in DeSantis's broader campaign to reshape higher education throughout Florida. In early 2023, the governor systematically replaced most of the school's board of trustees with political allies and facilitated the installation of Corcoran, a former House Speaker and Education Commissioner, as the new president. The new leadership wasted no time implementing sweeping changes, eliminating diversity and inclusion programs, shuttering gender studies departments, launching an athletics program, and aggressively recruiting student athletes. These rapid transformations triggered a massive faculty exodus, inflamed the alumni community, and fundamentally altered the college's academic culture. Simultaneously, serious questions about financial transparency and decision-making processes began mounting throughout the institution. The administration invested heavily in new initiatives like the athletics program, while simultaneously awarding Corcoran a compensation package exceeding $1 million annually. A comprehensive Suncoast Searchlight investigation revealed that these financial concerns reached the highest levels of college leadership, where former finance officers reported being dismissed after raising objections to attempts to use private donations to fund the president's salary. It's within this complex political environment that Allen is now working to build support for his privatization initiative. But here's what makes his proposal so intriguing and potentially controversial. Allen graduated from New College in 1995 and built his career in venture capital and educational technology before being recruited during the transition period. His hiring initially drew attention due to his personal blog, where he frequently criticized American higher education, progressive politics, and occasionally New College itself. These writings helped establish him as an ideological ally of the new conservative leadership, which brought him into the administration during the overhaul. However, once Allen gained access to the inner workings of the administration, he claims he became convinced that the entire transformation was constructed on fundamentally unstable foundations, supported primarily by political funding, misguided admissions policies, and leadership that he viewed as disconnected from authentic liberal arts educational traditions. In his detailed privatization pitch, Allen harshly criticizes New College's heavy dependence on state appropriations and argues that the school has never been properly suited for inclusion in the state university system. He points to the institution's extraordinarily high per-student cost in taxpayer dollars as evidence of this mismatch. The state currently spends approximately $91,000 per New College student, compared to an average of roughly $10,000 for students attending other state-operated institutions. The state's financial appropriations for the school have nearly doubled in recent years, climbing from $35.5 million in 2021 to $62.4 million in 2024, with a peak of $66.5 million in 2023. The same year, DeSantis launched his comprehensive overhaul, according to budget records. If government efficiency is truly your priority, then the most significant financial and operational disaster in the entire state happens to be your pet project, Allen said, referring to New College. What you have here is something that's wildly and seemingly incorrigibly inefficient. Allen also delivered scathing criticism of the college's admissions practices under Corcoran's leadership, highlighting the school's aggressive recruitment of student athletes and pointing to evidence of declining test scores as proof of a dramatic departure from the institution's historical identity. as an honors college renowned for its intensive, self-directed thesis projects and narrative evaluations instead of traditional grades. I was the only person in College Hall who truly understood what liberal arts education means, Allen declared. Richard Corcoran might have a few talking points, but he cannot engage in deep discussion about this institution's fundamental purpose, and neither can anyone else in that administration. These individuals are not academically minded people. In his presentation materials used while pitching the privatization concept, Allen includes a detailed 10-year roadmap for ending dependence on public funding, which would require $70 million in startup capital. His year-by-year proposal shows state allocations decreasing while out-of-state tuition rates increase correspondingly. The principle that private companies funded by private capital can deliver superior outcomes more efficiently and effectively than public competitors represents a foundational American belief, reads the final slide in Allen's presentation. Perhaps most surprisingly, Allen's libertarian argument for privatizing New College is finding support among groups that might have vehemently opposed such ideas in previous years. This unlikely alliance reveals just how dramatically the situation has shifted. One aspect I've cherished most about New College, and it's been crucial to my decision to remain here, is that it operates as a public institution and remains extremely affordable, shared a faculty member who attended Allen's privatization presentation, but requested anonymity due to fears of administrative retaliation. However, I genuinely don't believe the college can survive its current trajectory. This professor explained that the influx of student athletes has negatively impacted classroom dynamics and expressed support for any plan that would preserve the college's academic programming integrity. I'm encountering behavioral problems that require classroom management techniques I've never needed to employ at this institution, the professor revealed, describing students wearing earbuds during class and leaving the classroom to wander the hallways. Colleagues have approached me expressing frustration about not knowing how to handle their students' behavior. Brown, the former New College Alumni Association chair, indicated that he hopes alumni, who have assumed an increasingly vocal role in opposing Corcoran's management of the school, would have meaningful input in any public campaign for privatization. Brown told Suncoast Searchlight that he initially viewed DeSantis' takeover of the college with cautious optimism. I believed the conservative critique of higher education had some validity initially, arguing that academic environments had become somewhat restrictive, with excessive emphasis on political correctness, Brown explained. That optimism completely evaporated as the school implemented what he perceived as speech-restricting measures on campus, including limiting access to electronic forums and removing mailbox decorations and chalk art. He said his concerns about financial transparency drove both his decision to resign from his position in March and, more recently, his decision to support Allen's proposal. Brown's endorsement demonstrates how frustration with the school's direction has expanded beyond its typical critics and gained traction among alumni who initially gave the overhaul a fair chance. This shift has transformed Allen's concept from what might have seemed like an outsider's provocation into something that feels more like part of a broader reckoning with what the institution has become under its current leadership. While the idea of privatizing a public liberal arts college might appear radical on its surface, it can also be understood as an escalation of a much larger pattern that's been developing across Florida for decades. The state has consistently overseen the outsourcing of public services to private sector operators, with K-12 education serving as the primary battleground in this ongoing transformation. We're certainly aware that there's been a significant movement toward privatizing public services, observed Aubrey Jewett, a political science professor at the University of Central Florida. Over the past 40 to 50 years, we've witnessed extensive contracting out and privatization across numerous sectors. When viewed from that perspective, just because it hasn't happened before doesn't necessarily make it completely unreasonable. But here's the question that's dividing opinions. Is privatization actually the solution New College needs? Or would it represent the final nail in the coffin for accessible liberal arts education in Florida? And perhaps more importantly, what does it say about the current state of public higher education when even conservative insiders are advocating for complete abandonment of state support? The implications extend far beyond New College itself. If a formerly conservative insider's privatization plan gains momentum, it could set a precedent for how other struggling public institutions handle political pressure and financial challenges. Some argue this represents pragmatic problem solving, while others view it as surrendering to political interference and abandoning the public mission of higher education. What's your take on this dramatic turn of events? Do you think Nathan Allen's insider perspective gives his privatization proposal more credibility, or does his about face raise questions about his motivations? Should public institutions like New College fight to remain in state hands despite political pressures, or is privatization sometimes the only path to preserving educational quality and institutional independence? The debate is far from over. And the stakes couldn't be higher for the future of liberal arts education in Florida.